Right, we are out of the gate. Chilly night. Very chilly night, actually. Not quite as bad as last night, maybe. At least it's not raining. Thank goodness it's frigid. Thank goodness I'm still in the 90s here. Well, I guess some places are 20 plus years behind in their fashions. I suppose that's true. I'm very jealous, though, weather-wise. You guys wearing like cargo pants and fawning over Leonardo DiCaprio. This was big in the 90s. Pogs, that was like early 90s. Let's see, how are they doing today? Yeah, they're winning again. 14-0. Big day today. They're up 14-0 here. Friday night football. Whatever this, I don't even know what the local high school is. One of the teams is the Bobcats. I'm not sure who the other one is. I think these are the Bobcats. I think the Bobcats are the home team. So they're winning. Exciting times. How are you guys doing? How are you doing, Quiet?
Players of the game for our youth football program. Of course, we can't do that, but I do have some names I'd like to throw out there. Our youth football program is really robust this year. Got a ton of kids out playing. It's fantastic. I think I'll hold off on announcing those names just because they deserve some recognition. They're out here working hard 3 nights a week.
Right, they're talking about the local youth football program. Doing good. Going to be heading over to my parents to celebrate my mom's birthday. That's exciting. I guess I dare won't ask what birthday it is, but birthdays are always exciting. I don't know what these are. These look like maybe each class of the high school made them. I don't know. So yeah, exciting Friday night here. They got the band out, they got everything out. Obviously the big news of the day is Donald Trump. What do you think of Trump going into the hospital? Yeah, so yeah, Donald Trump is the big news today. I guess I'm curious when he got COVID, because he's done a lot in the last week. Oh, this is cool. They're actually honoring the marching band, and then they're honoring the football players as equal adversaries. That's good. Yeah, Donald Trump is now, well, he's in Walter Reed Hospital. He's been diagnosed with COVID. It's sort of unclear who started it, but there's a rash of it going through the White House right now, including Trump. Hope Hicks has it. Melania Trump has it. 3 people in the White House press corps have it. The chair of the RNC has it. Presumably they all got it in more or less the same place. It sounds like, at least yet, Mike Pence and Karen Pence have not tested positive. Biden tested negative. So I guess, you know, we were kind of wondering why was Trump a little bit sluggish late in that debate. You know, he was so energetic early on. I don't know. He might have already had it at that point. You know, he didn't shake hands with anybody, so, you know, I guess from his standpoint, the standpoint of everyone who was in the room with him, probably a good thing. But, you know, generally speaking, quite a development on a lot of fronts that, I mean, he's basically going to be out of, I mean, best case scenario, he's basically incapacitated here for 2 weeks in terms of going out to rallies, campaigning, debating. They'll probably be postponing the next debate. Many news reports are saying the other debates probably won't happen now. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good probability of that now. I don't know if the vice presidential debate will still happen next week, but certainly probably the main presidential debates are unlikely to happen now. At least the next one. And if the next one gets canceled, I can't imagine they would do the third one. So I don't know. Quite a development. I would imagine, you know, practically speaking, it basically puts an end to the election. You know, it certainly is kind of putting an end to the campaign season. He could make the next debate. Do you think he will? I would guess they'll just cancel it. But maybe they said he was getting some experimental treatments. He's moved into I guess they have a presidential office at the Walter Reed VA Medical Center, which I guess they've taken him there out of an abundance of precaution. He is experiencing some symptoms right now. He has, it sounded like a cough. He's got congestion. He's got a number of different things. His video that he released today was pretty normal. Said he's very fatigued right now. Okay, just says 14 days for content with known case. Okay, Quiet says, of course, many comments on social media under the news article were people who hate Trump, hoping he dies from COVID and laughing at the fact he got it. Some people are so evil. You know, our election season makes a lot of people very evil. And it does it every 4 years, and it's gotten worse every cycle I've been following electoral politics. It was bad back in the 90s. It got, you know, it was very bad in 2000, and it's gotten worse every single cycle since then. Very, very, you know, otherwise nice people become very, very malicious. And, you know, I think what we've seen here on the internet today is certainly a reflection of that. You know, it is really unfortunate, you know, to see those kinds of posts. People, you know, literally wishing him ill, hoping he dies, things like that. Hey, Lola J. Thanks, Mr. President, for all the tales you've spun, the sheeple that you've won, the way you'll kneel neath COVID's heel, eating burgers by the ton. We thank you so much. Is that a song? I don't think it's a Marilyn Monroe song. I think those are maybe lyrics you've invented. I don't know what song those even go to. But hey, Lola J, how are you? Thanks for joining us. I think, agree or disagree, I don't think any of us should be wishing ill on anybody. No case contact. Okay. Quiet says, I don't care how much I dislike a politician, I would never wish death or hurt anyone. You know, I encountered this a couple years ago. There's a very, very left-wing forum out there called Reset Era. I don't know why it's called that, but that's what it's called, and it is full of, you know, very, very rabid, you know, anti-Trump people, and probably very rabid left-wing people, you know, anyway. And at the time, you know, there were a lot of posts there, you know, people sort of, you know, saying, I hope Trump dies. And, you know, I at the time I was like, you know, I don't care who it is. You shouldn't be saying stuff like that. And they thought it was the individuals there thought it was ridiculous to suggest that it was not okay to think Trump should die. I don't think people would say that to his face. I mean, maybe some would. I think part of it is the fact that people when people don't communicate in person, they get very, very nasty. Lola J says, I did not invent this. Here's a Marilyn Monroe's original. I don't know that many Marilyn Monroe songs, Lola. Joe says, big difference on the outpour of care from all sides and the amazing life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Just take a look at all the posts of his saying positive. I can believe it, Joe. I can believe it's a pretty big difference. Now, I mean, he's not always the nicest person. He says a lot of kind of, bullyish things. But think back to the worst bullies you had in school. I mean, would you wish death on them? I don't think any of us would. I think only if you're really sort of blaming him personally for the deaths of all the COVID victims, for instance, in the same way that the people back in the Bush administration used to blame Bush personally for the lives lost in war. At least that was Bush's decision to send them into war. I mean, Trump was just trying to stop a pandemic. But people get really rabid and really nasty and really evil. She sang it as part of his birthday medley to JFK. Oh, is that literally those words? I was not aware of that, Lola. I'm not a huge JFK era, person. I think for a lot of people who lived in that era, JFK meant a lot. I don't tend to find that historically, his tenure means a whole lot. And it's never super interested me. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories with Marilyn Monroe. Random says, if you had Super Chat, I'd be more inclined to donate because I use Google Pay and rarely use the old Visa card. Plus, using the Visa, I gotta pay the exchange rate. Well, Random, I have this sort of vague recollection that you may have actually donated to us once before. So either way, I appreciate the thought, and if and as we continue to grow here, we might set up some alternative options for people. But I do really appreciate the thought, generally, and I think. Random, I was going back into, I was told you this yesterday, but I was going back into the sort of the annals of the very early Protest Ducks streams from back in June. And, some of the folks that were there with us at the very beginning of all this, when it was, it was one of the most stressful periods of my life. And the folks who sort of came out and joined us every day during that period, and how much I sort of value the fact that you guys did. And sort of treasure that period in helping me get through that. So, you've been here for a very long time, and I know you're on sort of sporadically, but I do really, really appreciate it. Well, this is, she began, happy birthday, Mr. President. It's a classic moment in American history. What presidential era are you into? I'm in my mid-40s. Well, Lola, we've talked a lot of, probably my favorite eras in American history would be the really the era where, the Whig Party started to rise in the first part of the 19th century. I'm a big fan of William Henry Harrison, early Abraham Lincoln, that sort of emergence of American industrialism in the first part of the 19th century. And then, more recently, well, I guess not more recently, but I'm also a big fan of the late 19th century. I think I find a fair amount of interest in, the era of William McKinley and presidents like that. And then in this century, I think the 1920s are interesting in a lot of respects. I think the 1980s are interesting in a lot of respects. Just that whole sort of Camelot stuff, LBJ. I've never gotten super into it. Just as that is what I tend to have a hard time understanding. Why is he to blame? when it was possible to stop it, contain in the country of origin. Just odd to me. The best places to find people who are really arguing that point would be Reddit politics or Reset era, in my experience. And holy hell, people are rabid on some of those platforms. Lola says, you are a gracious host, by the way. About to... Oh, thanks, Lola. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We're always grateful to have new folks in the mix. We started doing this stream back in Washington, D.C., which is usually where we're based. We started doing this back at the very beginning of the protests. I live in Washington, and the very beginning of all this was kind of going out every day during COVID to feed the ducks in the reflecting pools around the National Mall, because without tourists there during COVID, they were getting pretty emaciated. And then when the protests started happening in Washington, we started going out there to kind of film those every day because they were right on our doorstep, and started sort of interchanging that really stressful protest activity with sometimes just trying to catch our breath a little bit around the ducks. And it was very pleasant, and people seemed to really gravitate toward it. So ever since then, we've kind of been alternating between protests and ducks, and anymore where both those things are a little bit more inaccessible to us here as we travel, sometimes just walking around and seeing stuff. So anyway, we talk about things, and well, I would hope they're doing better now. They'll probably start migrating here the next month or two. Although some years it's warm enough they don't. Where are you on the East Coast? Are you willing to divulge any more information? I'm just curious. Philadelphia, okay. I lived 4 years of my life in Philadelphia. It's a fun city. I was trying to debate between Philadelphia and Boston. So two. Originally from Maryland, okay. So are you, what's your favorite cheesesteak place? We were having a cheesesteak debate on our, well, not really a cheesesteak debate. We were chatting about Cheese Whiz the other day, and then I was explaining to Mrs. Land, who has never lived in Philadelphia, what Cheese Whiz is and why it's actually a really critical part of a good cheesesteak. So yeah, I was trying to get her to choose between Pat's, Geno's, and Jim's, even though she's never had any of them. But anyway, Del Cedrios? I don't think I know that one. Interesting. Geno's, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of partial to Jim's. Yeah, at any rate, thanks for being here. A lot of traffic out here for the suburbs. Kind of just wandering around the suburbs right now, seeing what we'll find. Jim's for me too, Joe says. Yeah, it's a good one. They sort of melt the Cheese Whiz into the bread. You get these little pockets of Cheese Whiz sort of bubbling up from the bread. Meat's a little bit more chopped there. Yeah, it's a good one. It says, I had many visits to Boston when I lived in Providence, great town. So I've been to Providence a couple times. Not a lot, though. There's not a lot going on in Providence. Boston. I also lived in Boston for a little bit. Boston's very cold, but not nearly as cold as Chicago. Quiet says, I've been to Westchester, Pennsylvania on a business trip once. Wish I had more time so I could have visited Philly. What history there? Yeah, as you guys know, I'm a huge historical buff, and it's part of what I love about living in Washington. And have loved sort of sharing on this stream over time with folks with sort of all the tours of the monuments and everything. It's one thing to talk about current events in the context of you know, the news. It's another thing to talk about current events in the context of, um, the sort of rich sort of civic history and tradition of Washington. And it always sort of, I think, has enriched the conversations. But I've always, also been very much enjoyed both Philadelphia and Boston. I've always kind of been torn between which one has more history to it, Philadelphia or Boston. They're both great cities, but yeah, Philly's got a lot. Philly's got a lot more than people sort of realize. I know Boston, and everything's a Boston with the Revolutionary War and everything, but Philadelphia's got a lot. Yeah, Westchester's nice. Boston's a beautiful town. So many old, beautiful buildings. Yeah, yeah. Boston's if it just weren't so damn cold. It's the same issue with Chicago. Boston's got more nice old buildings than Chicago does, but Chicago might have more nice new buildings. But they're both just so darn cold. But yeah, I agree. It's a nice town. Bill, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in here. Lola says, I'm also lived in New York City, as have I, Lola. It's like you've done as robust a tour of the East Coast as I have, if not more. Yeah, New York's a hard place to live. Bill will give you some defenses here of New York City. Lola says, have visited Chicago, ironically always in October, November. Yeah, October and November in Chicago is kind of like, I don't know, the coldest January on record anywhere else. It's a little bit facetious, but just says, Lola, New York City scares me. Was it okay when you were there? Joe, what do you mean scary? Like scares you from like a crime perspective? I've lived in Richmond too. Okay. I have not lived in Richmond, but I have been to Richmond. Not a huge fan of Richmond. New York City, I mean, if you look at the sort of statistics of New York City, thanks to the efforts of the last few decades, I mean, New York City is now statistically by far the safest of the four sort of big Northeast cities. I was a little apprehensive moving there. It's a really intimidating city to move for the first time, and that place moves so fast, and it is so big and kind of intimidating that it's just it's a tough place to live until you've really settled in. Plus, I was living in Brooklyn, in Clinton Hill, and then Greenpoint, so I had to take the train a lot, which is a bad introduction to New York when you're working in Manhattan, particularly when you're working like 100-hour weeks, which is literally what I was doing at that time, staying over at the office many nights a week. It was really bad. How do I like DC? I love DC. I think of the big cities in the United States, I have always found that Chicago and DC are the ones that are by far the most livable. DC's both really pretty. If it weren't so expensive, it's got really good, from my perspective, someone who likes heat, likes summertime, DC's got really good weather. Some people don't like the humidity. But I really like the weather in DC. It's very green, very, very pleasant, more laid back than New York. Not as rich history as Philadelphia or Boston, but in terms of like the sort of urban fabric. But then there's all the history of the monuments and everything. Just the sort of being the center of government for 200 plus years. So I love DC. I think DC is a fantastic city. I think it has really come alive the last couple decades and is now sort of in the mix among the great cities of the world. I think it's right there with London and Paris and some other great cities now. Hey Nicholas, how's it going? Good to see you, Nicholas. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you're doing well, Nicholas. Quiet says, on my vacation trip drive around the U.S., we stopped in D.C., New York City, and Boston. Got to see the old cemetery in downtown Boston. Some of our founders were buried. Very interesting. Yeah, because you watch the movie National Treasure, you get to see like a little drive-by tour of sort of all of them. Boston's got some of that. Before COVID, I would do a lot of work travel in New York, and right by the Trinity Church, which is where theoretically the National Treasure was buried underneath that church. So I'm always tempted to pop inside and go try to look at the little gravestones. See if I can figure it out. New York City crime scares me. Interesting. I was sort of apprehensive about it when I moved there from a crime perspective, especially where I was in Brooklyn was still at that point fairly transitional. I think it just continued to kind of millennialify since then. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's unique about New York is just how like every block, at least outside of like Fifth Avenue, like every block of the city is sort of deeply integrated, and you have sort of all kinds of people of sort of all levels of wealth, all races, all everything, and it's just a very, very eclectic place. Nicholas's one dislike. Well, I don't know who the individual is that comes on and gives us the dislike every day, but we've had that for several months now. So at least it used to be 2 though. I think it's down to 1 now, but I do appreciate the likes and the subscribes from everybody that's sort of on the stream here. I really appreciate that. We also in the description have a link to a Discord that sort of supports this stream. If anyone wants to join that. And then also there's a link to the Duck Fund, which is how we accrue resources for our duck friends, including our very hungry friends, Carla, Becky, Sarah, and Nancy. So I guess those are the names we're working with now. But we'll probably be out to see them. Maybe tomorrow we'll go out to see them. They've been hungrier since it's been colder. So all those Duck Fund contributions go to good use. James Dean is here. Hey, James Dean. How's it going? Still the safest over the past few months? The safest? New York City? That's a good question. I mean, crime has risen in New York City the last few months. I don't know statistically how it would compare. I think the difference in New York City is that it's all sort of amalgamated together, whereas, DC, you're going to have some neighborhoods that are really bad and then some neighborhoods that are like super, super nice. New York City is a really tough city to live in unless you're really, really wealthy. For what you pay for, you get so much more in DC or even certainly Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago's very affordable as big cities go. New York is you pay a lot and you get so little for it. You're really paying for the public experience. Well, this is Joe. I was there during scary times, but a different way. Arrived on September 1st, 2001, 10 days before 9/11. You live in Clinton Hill, Lola? Really? It is a small world. Lola and I maybe have lived the same life, maybe. What was my address? I was trying to think where I was in Clinton Hill. I was on I think I was on a street maybe called St. James or something like that. I can't even remember the stop there. Boy, what was it? I was very near the Pratt Institute. Bill says, I would not do New York City right now. Too much is closed or scaled down. Statue of Liberty tours, Empire State Building, observation deck, and most good restaurants. Wall Street Journal had a very bizarre piece today about how this is all just par for the course for New York, and we love the chaos and anarchy because that's what New York is. I thought that was sort of a bad take on it. Quiet says, Lola, New York City might be very affordable right now, though. Quiet says, hey, DQ, how's it going? How are things over in Germany? Hope all is well with you. Quiet says, Lola, wow, that's close timing. I was there in August of '99. Okay. Interesting. Well, says a Quiet Castle. Wow, close indeed. Did you get to see the Twin Towers? I went to see the Twin Towers in '96. And I actually stayed at they had a hotel that was like right between them. And, there was like a restaurant that was kind of right between them too. It was very sort of dramatic views looking up at those. And I sort of saying back when we were talking about 9/11, sort of how bizarre it was in hindsight, that even then in '96, I was sort of walking up to them and like sort of touching them and sort of thinking about like, you could sort of, trick your eyes for a second into like bending backwards, and it sort of felt like the towers were falling, and it was like sort of a fun little mental exercise then. And then it's like 5 years later they actually came down. It's really crazy. Bill says Boston in normal times is actually a lot better place for tourist stuff than New York City, in my opinion. Yeah, Boston's a cool city. Again, weather is the issue. All the confusing roads too. This is Joe. Hey, where do you live? So although we started this stream in Washington D.C., we've had to kind of be back and forth here in Ohio for a little bit, kind of taking care of a few things here. And I guess the way that Google's algorithm advertises, it tends to sort of advertise itself to local folks kind of more. So we've picked up a whole bunch of Ohio people on days when I've been out here. Quiet says, Lola J, we didn't have time to go in them. We drove around them, and I got a few photos of them when we were at the Statue of Liberty. That was one of the last really tall towers that had an outdoor observation deck. It's really cool. Yeah, Quiet's posting a Discord link. Thanks, Quiet. This is agreed, and just as expensive, ironically. Ohio in the country, about 15 years ago, was living 5 minutes walk from downtown Dayton, Ohio. Dayton's a really interesting little city. Has a lot of history to it. It's obviously the Wright brothers. It's not far from where Neil Armstrong is from. There's a lot of sort of history with kind of aviation in Dayton. A lot of sort of industrial history too. It's a cool little city. Used to be bigger than it is. It's over the last few decades been one of the fastest shrinking cities in the United States. Good art museum, though. Well, this is Quiet. I'm glad you took those photos. The significance cannot be articulated. Yeah. The Claremont Avenue. I'm trying to think where that is. I got to pull out a map again on Clinton Hill. I was in Clinton Hill, and then I moved to Greenpoint. I was glad to get out of Clinton Hill. I didn't really like Clinton Hill. But where I was in Greenpoint, I moved away from New York City about a week before Hurricane Sandy came in, and had I been there, I would have been screwed because I didn't have a whole lot of stuff with me. I wasn't cooking on my own. I would have been really screwed where I was because Greenpoint got totally flooded out. Quiet says, yeah, me too. Didn't know it at the time how important those photos would become. Yeah. Well, you never know what's coming around the corner. St. James is a monopoly property. I don't think it was that, Bill. I don't think anybody would pay monopoly money for where I lived. The place I lived literally had it was in the basement of a, because it had been like a one-bedroom apartment that somebody turned into a two-bedroom apartment by acquiring like a basement room, and then they poked a hole in the floor of the kitchen and put a ladder down into the basement. So there was like one room in the basement and then one room up on the ground floor in one of those old brownstones in Clinton Hill. And there was no air conditioning. And I had to climb a ladder to go to the bathroom. So it was kind of crappy. It was, I would say, probably about the worst place I've lived. Ash. Hey, Ash. Where are you at? Hey, Ash. We are about to cross some railroad tracks and see what's on the other side of them. Thanks for the likes and subscribes, guys. Always appreciate that. You guys are watching Land Speculation on YouTube here as we trek around. Having a conversation about cities right now, and East Coast and New York City and Clinton Hill and things like that. We were talking at the outset about Trump's COVID diagnosis and sort of what that means for the world and the election and Trump himself and things people are saying about it, many of which are not very nice, which is unfortunate. James says, Louis Rossman says lots of places in New York City are closing. Any case, banks, etc. He's expecting prices to crash, and it needs to. I've heard sort of reports both ways on some of the cities. My observation, we were back in D.C. a couple weeks ago, was that a lot of things really did seem closed in ways they hadn't been before. There was a lot less energy out. I know you'll hear a lot of accounts from people on one side of the aisle that New York City is sort of perfectly normal and people are out at cafes and it's all normal. But I think the numbers belie that a little bit right now. Although not as much as I maybe would have expected. I think New York will come back. It'll just take it some time. I think once people are sort of back in regular life will come back fast. I think we've already seen it over the last month or two come back pretty fast. And I think you give it a couple years, some of those cities really will come back. Will says, let's see. When the towers fell, I just moved to Manhattan, 79th and Amsterdam. I went on to live in the Catskills in the Bronx briefly, but Brooklyn was where I lived longest there. Brooklyn rocked. Okay, so did 9/11, did sort of going through 9/11 in the city scar you or change you in any way? I'd imagine that was sort of it was a very moving time for all of us, but I'd imagine living in New York City is probably a very interesting and challenging experience. I did not like living in Brooklyn. I sort of committed to myself at that time, if I ever moved back to New York, I was definitely going to live in Manhattan, no matter how much it cost. I couldn't do Brooklyn again. I was doing it then because that's all I could afford. On a salary that was flirting with illegality with respect to the minimum wage. Lola's been to Dayton. Interesting. So Lola's crossed paths with a lot of us, I guess. TQ says, Merkel's spending our taxes like crazy, so nothing new. Well, TQ, did you tell us, is she going to leave office here at the end of her next term, or is she still running for stuff? And what happens after her in Germany? That's our government is the same way. Spend, spend, spend. We talked about that a little bit last night. The massive uptick in the national debt this year because of all the COVID spending, all the stimulus spending, and just sort of generally how out of control the debt has gotten recently, and how that will probably couple at some point here with the accumulating personal debt across our economy to create some kind of long and deep recession, if not something worse than that. So we can get back into that if people want to. Lewis says, I remember being on the interstate in Dayton during a snowstorm. The tractor trailers were slipping and sliding around my taxi from the airport. I'm surprised they have a whole lot of taxis in Dayton. I wouldn't think there are too many. There are probably a few. Pretty legendary. Yeah, there's been some legendary snowstorms in Dayton for sure. Bill says, our company had offices in World Trade Center, and I have been there many times, never thought to take pictures. Yeah, smartphones is a little easier. I feel like I'm snapping photos all the time, smartphones, but yeah, you never know what's going to be. It could have been any building, I guess. It's just crazy. Oh my Lola, the I-70 hill close to the airport is crazy for winter weather accidents. I'm trying to think. Taking I-70 from sort of across the state there on the way to Indianapolis. I don't remember the specific hill. Lola says Greenpoint and Williamsburg ended up being majorly gentrified. Prices ended up through the roof. Yeah, I remember. I mean, some of the Greenpoint stuff was already happening at that point. Not exactly where I was, but sort of closer to. I forget what that park is on the waterfront there, but there was a lot of development there. I'm going to that park one day and getting some guy who led some kind of religious outfit was trying to convert me to believing that Jesus Christ was actually a woman, was, I guess, the crux of his argument, or that we should be worshiping Mary as opposed to Jesus. Just as wet. DQ says, good wishes to POTUS. I hope he and the First Lady get well soon. Well, DQ is a much more sort of civil message than a lot of the ones that were posted on the internet today. I was talking at the outset about how toxic, election season makes, so much of our culture, and how much better things are when it's not election season. I kind of dread it every 4 years because it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. But we're at the point where people are literally, celebrating and sort of hoping he dies. Like, who the hell are we as a people? Like, I get that we sort of need people to, every culture sort of throughout time has had these, people they kind of feast on. Really unfortunate. Bill says, why did the land duck cross the railroad tracks? Get to the other side. It's a good one. I feel like every duck joke has to have a quack in it. Lola says, the craziest apartment I ever viewed for possible rental in New York City was in Manhattan. It was tiny. Had a bathtub in the middle of the kitchen. Hey, it doesn't surprise me. New York City's got some really, really nutty apartments. The prices aren't necessarily that different in New York as opposed to DC. I mean, they're different, but not like majorly. The difference is in what you get for them. New York City, so much of the housing stock is so old, and it's all these sort of makeshift apartments. I mean, bathtub in the kitchen doesn't surprise me in the least. I don't know. I'm sure many of those apartments are not up to code in all kinds of ways, but I guess they probably never have to really check on it. This is Ohio. The country sounds peaceful. You're fortunate. So Ohio is sort of the tale of two geographies. Southern Ohio is very hilly, very much like Appalachia. Northern Ohio is very flat, cornfields. Both are pretty in the winter. Kind of central and northern Ohio are a little dull. Southern Ohio is prettier, but a little tougher to drive around. Joe says, I am very blessed to be living where I am right now. Are you Jewish? Oh, Ash is asking, am I Jewish? Why do you ask, Ash? Why do you think I'm Jewish? Quiet says, Lola J, this California Bay Area. I had a 1 junior bedroom apartment that cost big money. It was crazy. Yeah, I can imagine in like the San Francisco area, I can imagine you're probably paying, minimum $3,000, $3,500 now for that kind of unit. I don't know when you're talking about Quiet, but yeah, I can imagine how expensive that would have been. James says, Louis Rossman lives in New York City and goes around showing the signs on closed buildings. He was building shopping a while back and is comparing things then to now. Yeah, no, I'm sure, sort of the anecdotal tour block on block, it's probably very similar to, DC and actually a lot of cities right now. That double whammy of COVID, the COVID shutdown, and then things getting looted. I just finally saw a count on Cincinnati. It was like 90-something businesses. DC, I think I did a hand count of about 200 businesses. I know Columbus, they said it was over 100 here. And there are some businesses that even after some of the initial looting, were still hanging on for dear life that I think are now gone. So that doesn't surprise me, particularly along some of those main corridors. Lola says, I had nightmares for months, having arrived less than 2 weeks beforehand. Plus, I was on American Flight 11 1 month before 9/11 out of Boston to LA. Same Tuesday morning flight. Yikes. Well, count your blessings, I guess. But yeah, that's freaky. I shared some of my 9/11 stories on 9/11 this year, and maybe at some point I'll kind of get back to them. But I had some kind of freaky stuff too. Jeanette says, hi, have I missed much? Hey, Jeanette, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. We've just been talking a little bit about lots of different cities. New York, Boston, Philadelphia, DC, a little bit of Ohio, Providence. And we've also been talking a little bit about Trump's COVID diagnosis and kind of what that means to the country and to the world and all that. Quiet is posting a link to the Food for Ducks Fund. Yeah, thank you, Quiet. Do appreciate that. If anybody feels like donating for food for the ducks, we'll probably be out to see the ducks tomorrow. So appreciate that. Inspector says, have you and the missus ever experimented with chocolate syrup? We have not, Inspector. We're not big on like food in the bedroom. But I do like eating chocolate syrup. It's very good. In fact, I think we have some in the fridge right now. This is one of these fountains that's changing colors. I think there's another one that we go to at one of the other places where we often find ducks that is the same model of fountain. I'm not sure if they came in a set of two, and maybe they just installed it here. Yeah, now it's turning green. I got another one down there. Oh, is that the same one? I might have two of these. Anyway, it's dark, so we're not going to see ducks here right now, but we did come to a pond that otherwise would have ducks, so I don't know if that counts. It's getting so dark so early now that our sort of old style of going to see ducks every day has kind of been thrown off a little bit. We're going to start planning for the winter here, and what kinds of content we want to be showing and including moving forward. So we'll probably release a survey on the Discord at some point. We might make it available if we can figure out a way here on the streams as well, just to kind of get feedback on what people like, what people don't like about the streams, and what we can kind of do off season when the ducks are kind of out of the picture. So we'd love everybody's participation in that when we do it. Quiet Castle says, hey Jeanette, how far behind am I? I'm pretty far behind, guys. I gotta catch up here. I'm gonna go fast. So Merkel said she won't run again, but the other politicians don't have the balls to openly declare their candidacy. So there are 4 dudes which will likely throw their hat in the ring. Are they similar to Merkel or are they different? Are we going to get more of sort of Merkel-style politics? I assume nobody's going to be quite as good at it as Merkel is. She's had a lot of experience and is, by some accounts, I guess some people think she's the most powerful world leader right now. Lois says, I had a conference in Anaheim as a last order of business before moving from Providence. It was easier, cheaper to fly from Boston to LA. I missed that fearful flight by weeks. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did, because now you're here. Also, remember those posting messages hoping Trump will die? Are the so-called compassionate ones who want to make our lives better? Well, it strikes me as a little bit similar to the people who have, who can loot buildings at the same time that they post graffiti saying, make love, not hate, or, love Trump's hate. It's like, if you're, I don't care how much, love you have in your heart. If you're burning down a building, that is not love. Lila says, Joe, I had no idea the interstate was crazy for accidents during the winter, but yep, that resonates. Spectre says, I think that Mercedes-Benz needs to release a car that can fly. I want more time to poop in the morning after breakfast. Then I could also take a bath instead of shower. Fly to work in luxury. That's a wonderful thought, Inspector. Sometimes I think more about the body hair we acquire as we age. I'm sure you do. Anything in particular, Inspector, with respect to body hair? Louis Rossman is cool. His girlfriend is also entertaining. They make a great couple. Well, says that part of the country is ridiculously expensive. I can only imagine the rent for the junior 1-bedroom. Must have been gorgeous there, though. Hey, I've never been to San Francisco. I was in San Francisco about a little over a year ago. And it's still beautiful. I mean, it's changed a lot, but it's still beautiful. Quiet says the same types of people that are protesting outside the hospital, hoping that the cops who were shot would die. Some people are just pure evil. I think some people are evil, and I think some people get wrapped up in the election stuff and just, say things that are just totally beyond the pale because of how riled up people get around election season. And it's really not good. Because it is, there's some danger to it. Quiet says, Lola J, the past I would have recommended a nice visit to San Francisco, but not these days, unless you like human waste, needles, burns, and junkies. Jet says, nice fountain lights. Yeah, kind of the most exciting thing we can show you tonight. I mean, I was in San Francisco. Like, I know people talk about all the free needles program or the free syringes program. You feel a little bit of that, but mostly it's just old San Francisco, with a lot of sort of corporate tech stuff. Now, Bob says fountain looks like fire. When it's orange, it probably does. Bill says, I was supposed to be in New York City on 9/11, but our meeting was delayed a week. Unlikely I would have been in the towers. Still probably would have been a mess, I'm sure, and probably would have been tough getting home, since airports closed down for what, like 8 or 9 days? DQ says we can get back to the exploding pants. I don't know. Do we need to get back to the exploding pants? Are your pants exploding again, DQ? Lola says, Quiet Castle, gosh, so many more places can be described that way these days. Rather unfortunate. Where's a time machine when we need one? Yeah, for sure. Things are expensive now. Although, if you come to the Midwest, things are cheap out here. And increasingly so every day. Inspector says there was an article years ago that stated you could get high from rubbing a certain toothpaste on your nipples. I researched it. I think it's bogus. Very important information to share with us, Inspector. Thank you very much. Inspector, you need a homeless man to rub it on your nipples. On your way to work, maybe? Well, yeah, maybe. Jeanette says, why don't you just move south so you can have ducks year-round? Sounds logical to me. That sounds like a plan, Jeanette. Where would we go? I don't know. Where do the ducks go? I haven't really researched the migratory patterns, so I'm not sure quite where they go. But I wouldn't mind following them. It'd be nice to have ducks year-round. Well, I don't know if they clear out in the summer then if you're in the south. Might have to, like a lot of people in the Midwest here do, and go winter in Florida. Lola says, if I had a time machine, I'd hang out in the early to mid 80s for a bit, by the way. Why that period, Lola? We were having an 80s music night the other week. Early 80s would be the birth of MTV, all that kind of good stuff. Interesting period. What's your favorite thing about the early 80s? My White sounds dubious, Inspector. Yeah, I think that's dubious, the toothpaste thing. Quiet is posting the land speculation Instagram. Yeah, thank you. We got like 2 or 3 followers on the Instagram. Probably use some more. Just as Inspector, about 35 years ago, putting toothpaste on a cig and smoking it was supposed to give you a buzz. Never tried, don't know, but others said it did. Inspector, have you tried that? Putting toothpaste on a cigarette? That says, Inspector, it's denture cream, I think. Try that. Denture cream on a cigarette. Or denture cream on, I don't know. I feel like I don't need to really get to the bottom of this one. You guys will figure it out. This says, hey, if you had a time machine, what time period within your own lifetime would you hit again? Within my own lifetime? Huh. It's an interesting question, Lola. So I can kind of approach it societally, or I can approach it from the standpoint of my own life. I think we had this question the other week, which was like, what's your ideal age? Like, what's the best age to be alive? And I think I said 4, because 4 is the age when you basically can start to do things, and you're pretty competent as a just person, sort of, but you don't have any responsibility yet of any kind. So I thought 4 was a pretty good age. But in terms of like, what would I go back to? I don't know. I might have missed out a little bit on some of college. I don't know. If I got to relive it, I'd kind of want to relive the whole thing. In terms of like just sort of where society was, I think actually the period after 9/11 was really an interesting period. Either that or kind of the late 90s. I'm not sure which. Like 1997 was a good year. But then also, you know, maybe like 01 to 04 was a pretty good period. Quiet says, Lola, the 80s were great. Quiet says, Lola, yeah, join us in the Discord if you haven't already. James Dean says, you will know a tree by its fruit. People looking or looting or wishing Trump's death don't have love despite what they say. Look at the fruit they produce. Yeah, it's, you know, I don't know what I can say about it that I haven't already. You know, I was going to say that and a lot of the name calling happens online where people kind of don't see each other, don't actually get to talk to each other, but the looting's in person. Like, you have to actually go up to somebody's business and literally destroy it to loot it. And I don't know how you could do that, you know, thinking you're on the right side of history doing so. Hunter says, could you imagine making a juice out of a Carolina Reaper, putting it into pepper spray? Okay, I don't think we're gonna do that. This is a Quiet Castle, totally. Sometimes when I get bummed, I pull up old 80s and 70s theme songs on YouTube. Instantly make me happy. Even the MASH theme used to bore and depress me to pieces. Interesting. The MASH theme, interesting. I kind of lose track of when shows started, when shows ended. I'm trying to think what was like early 80s. Quiet says, Inspector, I would see it happen. Those riders deserve it. Joe says, Ohio has the free needles, but it's a needle exchange, so you can only get as many as you turn in. Rather than sell needles for $2 each. So not many needles on the streets. Oh, yikes. That's like one of those things that was paved with good intentions that just has spiraled into something that is not leading to good results and is costing a lot of money. Lola says, wow, Bill, wow, you dodged an incredible bullet. This is Inspector, best idea so far. Okay, Dola says, if we're throwing out random facts, true story. Woman saved the McDonald's burger in its original wrapping for 30 years. Not in the refrigerator. She ate it and it tasted fine. Didn't get sick. I don't know whether that made me feel relaxed or freaked out. Well, there's been a lot of stories like that. McDonald's food in particular. I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise us too much by now that McDonald's food is loaded with preservatives. And it's probably kind of indestructible and probably not very good for you. I think if anybody's still eating McDonald's food with the expectation that it's fresh, you're going to be surprised. So 30 years is a bit much, but yeah, I don't think I'd eat it after 30 years, even so. DQ says 80s music suck. DQ, best era of music then. If you're gonna malign the 80s, what are you picking instead? Spectre said, I think maybe whitening toothpaste would probably be very titillating. All right. Spectre says DQ, 80s music rocked, literally. Joe says remove post was putting a tracking device on Carla, then playing your move. She will love you for it. So if we tracked Carla going all the way south, it's a thought. I don't know if it's legal. Probably illegal. You track her down, go feed her somewhere down south. Well, it'll be up to her if she wants to leave us. We'll come and keep feeding her until she decides to migrate. But we will miss her when she goes. That's for sure. I think they come back to the same place, though. So actually, I think we might see her again next year. Lola says, for me, the early 80s seemed a simpler time. I was 10 years old in 1984. I wonder now whether the times were indeed simpler societally, or if it was just that I was experiencing a child's life. It kind of seems like that in perpetuity, though, doesn't it? Like, the Bush era seems so simple and naive compared to the current era. I feel like all the issues just seem to get more complex and hairy over time. On the other hand, like we had problems at the end of the 70s that would be sort of unheard of to us now, but they might come back. But interest rates up at like 22%. I think it was simpler in some ways, but there's some things that were more complicated then too. We may be well on our way to a new Cold War, but we're not quite there yet. DQ says, I miss the age when pants exploded on a regular basis. I don't remember that myself, DQ, but maybe. Spectre says, Dairy Queen treats you right. 01 to 04. 01 to 04 were great years, says Inspector. Lola's not so sure. I'm probably way behind now. Joe says, when I was 1784, the teen years in the 80s were a blast. Bill says, depends on what you want. Late 70s to get laid, 80s to get rich, 90s for caffeine, 2000s if you love confusion, 2010s if you love to complain. Well, you could maybe go through all those eras again, Bill. This is, why was your last motion retracted? Bob says, accurate summary, Bill. Lola says, here we are, face to face. A table of silver spoons. Joe says, Lola, I am a typo queen and is very good at figuring out what I was trying to say, but the typo in that post were far too bad. We do our best. When it gets dark, as it is for most of our streams now, it becomes a lot harder to read the comments. It's just they come up really small on my phone, and they're kind of like gray on black. Well, it says, what do we do, baby, without us? What do we do, baby, without us? Lola, you would have a great time hanging out with on the music channel on our Discord. So I know Quiet was urging you there. We'd love to see you over there. I think you'd have a good time there. Sector says, would toothpaste suppositories get you high faster? I have no idea. I don't know enough about medicines, but I hear rectal medicine is very potent. That's great, Inspector. Quiet says, in 2000s, you'll have pain and suffering. In 2020s, you'll have pain and suffering, maybe. So here's a question for you. The 2020s, what decade of our past will they be most similar to? I guess November 3rd probably starts the beginning of, really the next decade here on the heels of COVID, social unrest, chaos, politics. What decade will the 2020s most resemble? DQ says 90s hip hop and punk. Lola says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Schlemazel. I don't know what you're referencing, Lola. I guess are these songs from the 80s? I'm trying to think what you're pulling out here. Bill says, I found some of Mickey D's cheeseburgers that were about 2 weeks old. They were totally dried up and hard as a rock. McDonald's does not use preservatives. Interesting. So Bill is disputing this historic claim about McDonald's, perhaps. Spectre says, Lola, J. Wayne's World, yeah. Bill is Long Quiet Castle. Inspector is doing it our way. It says, now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. It might be right for you, may not be right for some. Pop says, how did they taste, Bill? It says, would hydrochloroquine work better as a suppository? Why are drugs snorted? I don't know, Inspector. You're going to have to tell us why drugs are snorted and not taken as suppositories. Suppositories do work pretty fast most of the time. It's Inspector Wayne's World, yes. It's Inspector, not a good word for YouTube, the long H word. Lola says, one has to go. Operation Hungry Hippos. Mousetrap? Twister? Lola, you're starting to lose me. I don't know what you're talking about now. Spectre, if you kill a man in the dead of winter, steam will rise from his body. People believe it was his soul leaving the body. Al Bundy. Al Bundy is one of America's classic heroes. Did you know that Al Bundy once scored 4 touchdowns in a single game? I learned that recently, and I thought it was important to share that information with everyone. That Al Bundy, America's dad, now that Bill Cosby is no longer America's dad, Al Bundy is America's dad. He once scored 4 touchdowns in a single game for Polk High. Very impressive. Well, says Joe Rowe was autocorrect the culprit. Spectre is pretty sure I botched that quote. Well, says, really? How do I join the music channel? Lola Quiet has posted the link to the Discord in his comment. It's also in the video description. But if you join the Discord, folks are usually up late at night listening to music over there and hanging out. So feel free. Spectre says, when you guys are making a lot of comments in the 20s. I don't know about that. I think we've kind of been through the Roaring 20s here the last few decades. Roaring 20s started out having recovered from a war, a pandemic, social anarchy. I assume you're saying that, Jeanette, because I've talked about it before, but I actually don't think what's going to ensue here in the 20s is very similar to what ensued in the 1920s. Spectre said, great movie, a great scene. Okay, yeah, you guys are talking about something I don't know what you're talking about. Caro, hey Caro. Caro says 1860s. So Caro thinks we're heading into civil war here. I think there are some who would characterize the Trump administration as very similar to that of Franklin Pierce or James Buchanan, in terms of sort of sowing lots of division and sort of veering us closer to, something that gets beyond social unrest towards civil war. I don't think people were quite serious enough about the issues that they are out protesting right now that it's going to lead to civil war. So I don't think it's going to be 1860s, but we could be headed into like an 1850s. Only time will tell. The song came out in 1982. Much simpler time with outstanding music, in my opinion. Let's check the protests. When was The Tide is High? I think that was like 1982 as well. And then Video Killed the Radio Star was in that same era. What's his theme songs? That one was from Laverne and Shirley. Okay. Okay, Bill's got it. Okay, you guys all seem to get it. Yeah. Says Joe, better see the doctor for your bad lag. Don't want to have to use a cane. Yeah, Inspector says Twister was a good movie. Bill Paxton was great. Twister was a weird movie. Entertaining, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it. This is Inspector, game over, man, game over. Lol. It says one has to go. Apple, Microsoft. I don't know if you're quoting something again or if you're asking a question, Lola. Joe says, too late, already have the cane. Inspector says, you stole Dorothy. Okay, you guys just quoting movies now. Are these from Twister? I like how Twisters in the movie make animal sounds. Quiet says they play Twister on TV almost every other day. Do they? I feel like what I see on TV every day is Law and Order. That 5 episodes of Law and Order on concurrently every day, like all night, every night. There must be a million episodes of that show. Quite says cow, another one. Same cow, lol. Yeah, these are Twister lines. Just I gotta go, we got cows. Quite says ha. That's a great line. Okay, you guys are quoting movies now. Jeanette's quoting the same line. Christopher says, right now, protests medium-sized and nonviolent. Where are they, Christopher? Where are we getting protests right now? The land is starting the buffering on my end. Okay, well, if you guys are getting buffering, let me know. Hope it doesn't buffer too much. Jet says, Jinx Joe. Lola says, one has to go. Classic watch, smartwatch. Okay, you guys, I get it that we're quoting movies, but I'm not getting them all. Inspector says, President of the United States did our great cover of Video Killed the Radio Star. I don't know that I have seen that. Well, it says, reading back, Twister was actually a gnarly game in the 70s and 80s, worth Googling. It's a different game. But yeah, no, Twister's still around, the game. Asking a question, if one had to go, which would you vote out and why? I've never bought an Apple product in my life, so the answer is easy for me. I would just probably need to... Well, I've got stock in Apple, but I've only ever had Microsoft products. I guess that's counterintuitive, but maybe it's just keeping my assets separate from my investments. But I'd probably take Microsoft. Apple's done a lot for the world. You know, I think Steve Jobs is actually a very important figure for the development of computing. I mean, it's kind of not a controversial statement, but I think he like really is. But I don't like the whole little Apple cult. I don't like the products that try to think through things for you, etc. Quiet says the suck zone. I don't know what that is either. Vector says, fun fact, Mark Cuban auditioned for the role of Dusty in Twister. Really? He would have been pretty young then. Lola says, for me, Apple has to go. Think about it, without Microsoft, there would be no Apple, and without the abacus, there would be no Apple or Microsoft. I suppose that's true. Well, Microsoft, what Apple was really good at was sort of putting grace and elegance to computing. What Microsoft was good at was democratizing it. They kind of are both necessary components in the history of computing. Bill Gates had no sense of grace or aesthetics. I think if all we had were Bill Gates computers, life would be miserable. Quiet says, Lola J, remember the Swatch? It says, Mark Cuban may never have been a billionaire if he got the role. Maybe. Would he have bought the Mavericks? I don't know. Mark Cuban did a lot of things in his life. Surprised he has not seriously contemplated politics, by the way. He's sort of the rare celebrity billionaire that seems to... I don't really agree with him on a lot, but I think he has the rare sort of acumen to be able to at least be competitive in the political arena. Joe says, jinx on you, Jeanette. I wasn't sure about my first lag, but land read mine first. Lola says, okay, Jeanette says, true, Joe. This is quite Castle. Oh my God, I loved Swatch. Hey, what do you think of Fossil? Bill says, I played Nude Twister at a party once. Did you do it with other people or by yourself, Bill? Because I feel like playing Nude Twister by yourself at a party is a way to get some weird looks, but playing it with other people maybe is kind of fun. Lola said, stock in Apple, marry me. Boy, is that all it takes? Jeff says, haha, I played that too, Bill. Spectre says, Steve was smart, but he was an asshole to his first daughter. Oh yeah, Steve Jobs. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people who've made transformational impacts on the world were kind of assholes in their personal life, that's for sure. In fact, it's maybe more the exception than the rule to not be. A lot of people who have, kind of forsake their own personal lives for bettering the world for others. I don't know if that's what Steve Jobs did or if he was just an asshole, but he did change the world in a lot of good ways. Bob says, bold move cotton. Okay, I've read more phrases tonight that I don't really understand. Random says, I use my phone for everything. I no longer have the need to carry a wallet. My phone has an NFC thing, so I can just tap to pay for stuff. All my ID is also in a digital format. Random, is there anything that concerns you about having everything digital? I know there are a lot of people in the U.S. who are sort of concerned about the world going cashless, or anything that sort of puts all of their assets in the cloud, or gives the government sort of unfettered access to things. Any concerns from your end about having everything digitized in that way? That says, Wild Bill, we need more details. Yes. Christopher says, I think Trump is going to Walter Reed. Might have knocked the wind out of the pro-Trump supporters for now. We will see. Protest currently in Kansas, Dallas, Salem, Oregon, Rochester, New York. Joe, I have seen Twister. It's been a while. Christopher, I think this probably is the. I think this probably about wraps up the election. Trump has gone to Walter Reed Hospital. He's effectively working out of the presidential offices at Walter Reed Hospital for now. Said he is experiencing symptoms. He's got a cough. He's got I think a fever. He's got a runny nose. He's very fatigued. He's very much sort of not himself right now, and he's kind of in the early days, we think, of COVID. So we will see sort of where this takes him over the coming days. It might explain why he had, sort of lost energy late in that debate the other night. I'm curious sort of when he got it, but at any rate, he's not going to be out on the campaign trail for a little bit. Whether there is a next debate, whether he makes the next debate, whether or not there's a debate after that, I think is still very much in question. I don't know that I can't really see a path that ends well for him here at this point. Lois is right. Apple was the flare. Microsoft was the share. Sucks on as a twister line? Okay. Spectre says, can you use olive oil as lube instead of KY jelly, or will it break condoms? Also, is it healthier for your partner? Such a healthy oil. Spectre, I've never tried it, so I don't know. If you try it and you come up with an answer for us, let me know. It says Microsoft went after the business market first with the idea that... Somebody's really yelling here. Let's check on the football score. Microsoft went after the business market first with the idea that would drive to the masses. Made a good call on that. So I guess Apple went home computing market. Wow, 42 to nothing now. Home team is, last time when we checked in on them a couple weeks ago, they had 34 to nothing. Had 42 to nothing today. Very impressive performances here. I don't know who this high school is, but very impressive football team apparently. Spectre says Mark Cuban doesn't have the balls to run. That's probably true. Okay, Lola says one has to go. Starbucks coffee, Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Lola, you're filling in for Nicholas here. Nicholas usually gives us would you rather questions. I'm kind of liking these one has to go questions. These are pretty good. Starbucks coffee versus Dunkin' Donuts. So this is like somehow, as everything has become political, Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts has become political. Starbucks is the coffee you're supposed to like if you're liberal. Dunkin' Donuts you're supposed to like if you're conservative. They're very different in terms of their presentation of coffee. Starbucks clearly has better coffee, in my opinion. Dunkin' is, more grab and go. I like Dunkin' Donuts a lot. I had to get a coffee. like an iced coffee or something, I'm definitely going Starbucks though. If I had to get a donut, I'm of course going Dunkin' Donuts. Although Starbucks is a pretty good donut actually. Vibe of both is okay, although Starbucks is a little bit cleaner and nicer. I don't know. I don't really have like a huge opinion between the two. Okay, Quiet says, Ouchtown, population U, bro. Inspector says he talks big but hides behind his family as an excuse. Well, Lois says nude twister by himself. Yeah, Random says if you never had Tim Hortons coffee, must not be. I have had Tim Hortons random. For some reason, there's a lot of Tim Hortons in Ohio, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I would say it's not as good as Dunkin' Donuts. But they do have good breakfast sandwiches at Tim Hortons. Better than Dunkin' Donuts. Which says Mark Cuban wouldn't be as good as Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary's kind of a jackass, but he's kind of an endearing jackass. Will says stock in apple and mojitos is pretty much all it takes. Mojitos? Yeah, mojitos are good. You like margaritas or mojitos better? Because Kevin O'Leary would make China pay royalties on everything. Mr. Wonderful, yeah. I don't know if he's electable, though. This says Mike Roll would be good for Mike Rowe. Yeah, a lot of fans of Mike Rowe on this show. I'm not super familiar with Mike Rowe, but we got a lot of people who seem to like Mike Rowe a lot. Spectre loves Mike Rowe. He's the freaking man. I says, Jeanette, I totally agree. Yeah, as I said. Which says, is there any more news about Barron Trump? I don't know. I didn't hear anything about Barron Trump. Does he have COVID or not? If he has COVID, I mean, he's young. He should be fine. I don't know. This is one has to go. Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates. I think Bezos is too important in the contemporary era. Elon Musk is too important in the contemporary era. Between Bill Gates and Mark Cuban, Bill Gates is old. I think he's not doing it. I think he's doing, some good work around the world, but he's probably the one I could spare at this point just because he's the oldest. Barron Trump has tested negative. How did that work? Is it land? I also just heard on CNN he was having some trouble breathing and very fatigued. Yeah. Well, he's at the age of he's at risk for sure. Is he with his family? I hope he's okay. Barron Trump or Donald Trump? I don't know. I think Melania and Donald are at Walter Reed. I'm sure Barron is not. I don't know. His wife and son staying behind the White House. Okay, so I assume you're talking about Donald Trump having trouble breathing. Yeah. Well, they said they moved him to Walter Reed. I'm sure he'll get the very best care imaginable to get through it. So we'll find out. So Melania and Barron are at the White House, even though Melania is positive. A little bit of worry there with insurance and protection from scams makes life so much easier to manage your stuff when it's digital, easier to find stuff and sort. So Randall's not really worried about all currency being digital. I am way behind on the comments, so I'm going to try to race here. Inspector says he seems more sensitive than older siblings. Who are you talking about, Inspector? I thought Melania went. Oh, Barron seems more sensitive than his older siblings. He's just, I think he's shy from the public eye. I don't know. He's a kid still. Kind of awkward teenager at this point. All right, it's now 49 to nothing. So, hell of a game going on here. Melania went. Yeah, I would think Melania went. Lil says it's nicer to see this high school game. Gives a semblance of normalcy. Yeah, a little bit. I guess they probably only have family in the stands. So they probably don't have. That's probably why all these people are outside. Bill says yes. Apple went after the market they had, hobbyists and emerging gamers. Yeah. Christopher says Inspector. That's what I heard. Maybe things have changed since then. She was not as sick as he was. Okay, interesting, Christopher. Lola liked our answer on coffee. Okay, good. Bill says funny that McDonald's sells more coffee than Starbucks and Dunkin' combined. Yeah, McDonald's coffee is not good though. I don't know. Coffee's so much about the branding. It's like a lot of like bourbon. So much of it's about the branding and sort of what you think you're drinking as opposed to what you are drinking. But I have never found McDonald's coffee to be very tasty. But I do love McDonald's. Bob says Trump Watch 2020 will keep all the attention on him and not tax his white supremacy, denouncing or Biden. So Bob is painting a path toward a Trump victory because of him having COVID. People feel sorry for him and focus on his recovery and not on all the sort of other things that might be not as good for him. Interesting. Not sure I agree, but interesting. Quiet says I have to head out to get to a birthday party, so I'll see y'all later. Thanks. Subscribe and join Discord. Yeah, thanks, Quiet. Yeah, I'd encourage everybody to do all those things. I appreciate the likes and the subscribes. If you're not on the Discord, Lola, we're talking to you. Please feel free to join. I don't think, Inspector, you're on there either, so we'd love to have you over there. Link is in various places throughout the conversation and also in the video description. Chris was at land. Stay on this football game for a bit. A sense of normalcy. Yeah, we'll do it until somebody tells us not to. This is Ivanka or Kaylee? For what? I'd rather have Kaylee as the press secretary. I'd rather have Ivanka as his daughter. I don't think Ivanka should be involved in the political decision making, though. I think Trump involving Ivanka and Jared and all the political stuff was a bad move. And to the extent they're still involved is a bad move. Jeanette says, bye, Quiet. Yeah, thanks, Quiet. Lola says, I've heard from laypersons that while Starbucks is fancier, Dunkin' actually tastes better. See, I've heard that too, Lola. I don't think, I mean, a lot of Dunkin's, maybe that's true of the Rake coffee, although I haven't found it to be true in my case. I like the taste of Starbucks coffee. And actually, where I work, we have sort of several different kinds, like kind of right next to each other. So I have kind of done direct taste tests of Starbucks and Pete's and a few other brands. And Starbucks is like vastly better than those others. But I think for certainly the like iced coffees and things like that, Dunkin's always tastes like it's sort of a pre-made mix as opposed to Starbucks, which is more natural. Lola likes margaritas better. Great. One has to go. Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Volume 1. I have the DVD of Pulp Fiction sitting in my in our condo in D.C. and have actually never watched it. I have it sitting there. Had it sitting there for probably many years and have never watched it. I'm probably gonna go Kill Bill, maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about either one of those to make a pick, Lola. Boondock Saints or John Wick? I don't know, Inspector. I don't know if I have enough familiarity with either of those either. Want us to go Pepsi or Coke? We're keeping Coke around. Pepsi tastes better in some ways, but yeah, Coke is much more iconic. We can survive without Pepsi. Pepsi we can sort of replicate with like RC Cola or something. I'm gonna keep Coke. Yeah, we're kind of always just doing process elimination here, Lola. Yeah, Quiet will be back. I mean, we do this every day, Lola, so we're kind of out here every day. Quiet has generously agreed to be our moderator here, usually on YouTube. Okay, Lois picking John Wick goes. So keeping Boondock Saints. Okay. Spectre's given Lola a big muscle here. Boondock Saints is better.
Congratulations, dude.
Just announced something about homecoming. I wasn't even paying attention. We're counting down. Let's see. We're in the fourth quarter here, actually. So that's the game. Home team wins 49-0. Inspector says my allowance of pop culture disappointing. Yeah, a little bit, probably. I once won a game of Trivial Pursuit about pop culture, and I have no idea how I did it. That's the game.
We hope to see you all soon. Thanks so much. Go Bobcats.
Lois says Quiet Castle. Yeah, we'll miss you. Okay, yeah, John Wick, Boondock Saints. Like Saints was so twisted and raw, it was terrifying, and at times was hilarious. Lola says Inspector Void. I never figured out what that emoji is supposed to be. Bill says later quiet. Inspector says I even had a replica of their rosary. Hell of a set of cheers for the losing team there. You get beat 49-0. I guess it's kind of embarrassing. I guess they're all meeting to, I don't know, gather or pray or whatever you're allowed to do these days. Yeah, Lola, join the Discord. One has to go hotel, bed, and breakfast, Airbnb. Hotels are great. Airbnbs are okay. Bed and breakfast can go, though. I have no use for bed and breakfast. Been to some nice ones, but I don't really like all the interactivity of them. Airbnbs are kind of as much interactivity as I can handle. So, but hotels are my favorite. I think if I can afford a hotel, I'm going to go hotel most of the time. I know that's not what a lot of millennials like. A lot of millennials like the sort of interactive, sort of homemade nature of the Airbnb. It says, please do Lulu. Music most nights. Inspector says Airbnb has to go. It's Jeanette. It's a separate platform app. Yeah, Lola, it's a little, it's just an app. It's a real easy one to download. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. It's, yeah, you just got to go into the App Store, the Google Play Store, and should be easy enough to find. But it'll be worth it if you jump on there. Inspector says they invaded our neighborhood, but our house shut it down recently. Thanks. Good. I don't know who the they is. Maybe the protesters invaded your neighborhood. You shut it down. Because you'll have to watch it. Pulp Fiction had more complex plot. If you blinked, you missed things. See, I don't do very well with complex plots. I do well with simple plots. I don't know. I have a hard time following movies. I think because I get distracted. Pepsi has to go, says Lola. Yeah, I agree. Pulp Fiction is worth the watch. It's so bizarre. Okay. Yeah, Inspector's disappointed in me. Lola says Pepsi's too sweet. Pepsi's good. I mean, I don't have anything against either one of them. I just think Coke is more iconic. Says when you log on, one of us will help you if you need it. Promise. Yeah, everyone cheer. Although I guess the stadium's kind of cleared out now. Even the band is leaving. Inspector likes Coke, but will grab Pepsi every now and then. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, Inspector. Lola says, RC Cola is making me think of root beer. Slight leap. Then I'm thinking of root beer floats. Haven't had a root beer float in ages. Root beer floats are fun. Although, I think as desserts go, we've done days where we talk desserts. I'm not like super high on root beer float as a dessert, just because there's so many better things out there. We did the top 25 desserts per Survey of Americans a while back. I don't think root beer floats made the top 25. Bad Catitude is here. Hey, Bad Catitude. Thanks for joining us. Pepsi is a little too sweet. I agree. Well, says, can you believe I've only ever had ice cream cake once in my life? So good. Ice cream cake's good. I think if I'm going to do cake, I'm going to do like a really rich, thick, like German chocolate cake or something. I'm kind of partial to sort of dense chocolate cake for the most part. 49-0 is an embarrassment, more than a slaughter. Yeah. Must be a good team. I don't know, maybe they're in the wrong division or something, the wrong level. It's a pretty small school, I'm surprised. Bat says Coke is a little harsh. I like it when the ice has melted a little bit. I'm glad I'm not the only one who likes soda a little bit flat bad. I do too. Not like flat, but a little bit less intensive than when it's like straight out of the bottle. I think you said the score's 49-0. That's a blowout. Yowza, yeah. I see the kids so energized. Yeah. You know, after all we've been through this year, And after all, sort of, I was in the heart of in DC in the middle of the protests. Like, just seeing sort of good, wholesome high school football actually has like sort of touched me more than I thought it would. Like, it's really sort of nice to see. There's that chant sounded like Braveheart, hold, hold, hold. Was that what they said? I couldn't make it out. Okay, our inspector says McDonald's has the best Coke. Carbonation stinks so good. I'd assume it's the same syrup. They're all getting delivered. I don't know if... Did anybody else notice McDonald's Coke being any better than anybody else's? Lola says, I am going to screenshot the name of it kindly and search for what again to find you? Yeah, Lola, if you download the app called Discord, Discord, you just download the app, and if you just click the link that's actually in the video description, or you can just type it into your browser, you just click the link, it'll pop up an invitation to the server, and you just join it, and you can hang out with us. So you just got to download the app first, and you can just click directly on the link. Actually, if you're on a computer right now, if you just click the link directly from the comment, it should open a page, and you can just do it right in your browser. Otherwise, you got to download the app if you're on your phone. Bad says you have to watch Pulp Fiction multiple times because it's out of order. It's not that long though. Oh goodness, one of those movies that's intentionally out of order. I can't follow those, Bad. Those are way too confusing for me. Oh, this is One Has to Go. Viking Warriors, Spartan Warriors, Ninja Warriors. Well, I don't know if I have a huge preference there. I'm probably going to ditch Ninja Warriors because I know the least about them. Spartan Warriors, Viking Warriors are sort of real, and I don't know, Viking Warriors had some not great elements to them. I don't know, I might get rid of the Ninja Warriors because I kind of have the least interest in them. Bill says, prefer B&Bs for short vacations, like in New England states, but most vacations and business travel. Hotel is the best in my opinion. Yes, I agree with you on the hotels. I've been to some nice bed and breakfasts, but again, like if I'm just there to have a vacation, I don't really want to be interacting with the host all that much. So just as distracted while watching a movie. It's okay, I fall asleep. Okay. What movie, Joe? Lois says, Jeanette just caught your offer for help. Thank you. Yeah, Lola, Jeanette will give you a lot of help if you're over on the if you can find out how to get on there. If you can figure out how to download the app or open the link, Jeanette will definitely give you the tour. Bad says KOA is where I like to stay. Jeanette says, Lola, the link is also in the description of all newer videos. Yeah, if you go to any of the videos on our channel, you'll find links to the Discord where you can find it. It says Bad Catitude, write the order. KOA, what is KOA? Oh, is that Campgrounds of America? I don't think I've ever stayed at a Campground of America. I've gone camping a lot, though. Bad says my aunt makes an amazing coconut cream cake for my birthday every year. I don't like coconut, Bad. I really can't, yeah, Bad. I really can't do coconut. That is not my buzz. Mrs. Land and I are very much on the same page there. We are not coconut fans. Well, it says, searching for a yawning emoji for you. That says, Lola, if you have trouble, comment on Land's video from the last night, and Land should see it. Yeah, Lola, if you put any like permanent comments on our videos from the last few nights, I will find them and I'll help you too. Discord, yep. Bad says McDonald's Coke tastes better because they're good about keeping the machines clean and properly calibrated. I know from experience. Interesting. Yeah, I know when you go to some restaurants, you get like the extra watered down Coke, which I assume is a way of them being cheap. Which is as much as they're charging you for Coke, it's like how many cents can they really be saving on that transaction? You have to maintain the correct syrup ratio. Well, that's good to know for the future. I will try to do McDonald's Coke. Lola says, I'm on mobile Android. I can hit the Play Store after the chat. Yeah, perfect, Lola. Again, if you have any issues, just go to a recent video of mine and comment on it. I'll get an email and I'll come and help you out. The coolest movies I've seen have Spartans and ninjas in them, by the way. I'm struggling with Viking movies. I guess I was thinking more like the actual historical figures, like Vikings, Spartans, and I don't know if ninjas are historical or not. I guess they must be. One has to go Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. Those are like peas in a pod, aren't they? I've probably shopped at Whole Foods and not so much at Trader Joe's. Whole Foods has some interesting things. I don't know. I don't really shop a whole lot at either one of them. I'm kind of more of a like regular grocery store person. So I might get rid of both of them and keep like, whatever the in DC it's like Safeway and Harris Teeter. Here in Ohio it's Kroger. I lose track of what all the different regional grocery stores are around the country. But I don't know. I guess maybe I know Whole Foods better. It's like Trader Joe's is maybe the better store though. Just fall asleep equals any movie that is the problem. Oh, you're saying in general you fall asleep during movies. Okay, interesting. I don't usually fall asleep during movies, but I kind of, I definitely tend to sometimes lose the plot, daydream, get bored. If I can do something during a movie, popcorn helps. So I can play a game of solitaire during a movie. That makes it much more watchable for me. Lola's giving Joe a cat face. Lola, Mrs. Land really likes cats for when you get on the Discord. Bat says, Campgrounds America, they have cabins at most places, and it's not that expensive. Is camping cheating, though, if you're going to like somebody else's pre-prepared campground? I feel like you have to go out in the woods yourself to really be going camping. Well, this is coconut cream cake, yummers. Bad loves coconuts? Yeah, I don't know, Bad. I don't know about that one. I don't think I can get behind you on that one. Well, it says comments on video for help. Well, it says at bad catitude. Cat, yes. Bad catitude is literally catitude. Pepperidge Farm has the best coconut cake half squares in the frozen food dessert section. You know what? I really like those Pepperidge Farm cakes. Every once in a while I get tripped up and accidentally get the coconut one. I like their like regular chocolate cake, the one that's in the freezer. Those are surprisingly good for like freezer cakes, but definitely not the coconut one. That says ninjas are mostly a pop culture myth. Real ninjas were primarily spies who occasionally assassinated people. Interesting. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to go with like Viking and Spartan wars, though, because at least those were like sort of real wars that had sort of real armies. And I like sort of military history. We've talked like Norman Schwarzkopf and sort of military stuff on here. We've got some people on here who are vets, so I like sort of old style military stuff. This is Whole Foods is more expensive but has great inventory. Trader Joe's has less inventory, but the prices are much better. Okay, I've never really gotten into either one. I've never sort of gotten into millennial shopping. I kind of like more regular grocery stores, so I don't know if I can really speak on that one. I think I've eaten at a Whole Foods and I've gotten things at Whole Foods. I'm not sure I have at Trader Joe's. It says we can thank the Vikings for so many blonde Northern Europeans, even if their method leaves a lot to be desired. All right, fair enough. Bad says my aunt makes the whole thing from scratch. She likes baking. Um, Lola says, not sure if you have Giant there. Yeah, Giant's good. Giant's a nice, good, big grocery store. Well, bad. I'm sure homemade it's much better. I just always my take on coconut is that it's somewhere between like carpet shavings and toenail clippings. It's like really chewy. It's kind of tasteless. I don't understand the appeal of it, but I get that some people like it. The words sky and die, in other words, come from Old Norse. Bad's cat is named Lola. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of Norse history. Let's see. Is Trump included, says Bill, in... So what did Bill say? Oh, yeah, what is Trump's ancestry? He's I think it's mostly, that's like British ancestry. I don't know if that is related to the Vikings or not. Bad says, by the way. Oh, by the way, my cat is, yeah. Says Trump supporters are starting to gather at the hospital. Trump flags. Back the blue flags, American flags. Interesting. Well, I don't know. I feel like it'd be nice if they leave one of those at home. I feel like one of those, 2 out of the 3 of those might get some support, and 1 out of the 3 is just going to cause a lot of controversy. Lola says, your cat must be a dreamboat. She's got a very strong personality. Okay. Wow, I didn't know that about ninjas. Bill is lolling at Lola. One has to go. Golden Grams, Raisin Bran, Honey Nut Cheerios. I like Honey Nut Cheerios a lot. That's one of the best cereals out there. Raisin Bran, I actually like a lot too. That's a very good cereal. Some people don't like it, but I feel virtuous eating it, and I like the taste of it. Golden Grams are like okay. I'm not usually a fan of like hugely sugary cereals, so I think I'm gonna ditch Golden Graham because I eat the other 2 much more. Mrs. Land and I did a full cereal bracket not too long ago. We might do if we ever get really light on content, we might do probably after the election, we'll do a day on maybe a cereal bracket, maybe a fast food bracket, that kind of stuff. If you guys like the food days. Bill is lolling at Lola. So Lola, the one rule we have here is that if you loll, if you say you're lolling, Jeanette knows this, you have to actually loll. You have to actually laugh out loud. If you're going to ruffle, you have to actually roll on the floor laughing. It's the only thing I expect here. We want real laughter and real rolling on the floor. Brad says, we get it. You don't like coconut. Yeah, you got it. You got it bad. But that just means more for you. Lola says, you can tell a lot about a person based on their choice of cereal. Yeah, it's probably true. You probably can. Okay, so you clearly do not like coconut. Yep. I love Fruity Pebbles, says Bad. I'd say I like Fruit Loops. I don't know Fruity Pebbles as much. Says one has to go. Ayn Rand Paul. Oh, man. Well, Ayn is a deeper thinker than Rand Paul, I think. I guess I'm keeping around Ayn Rand, maybe. I mean, Ayn Rand is dead, so I guess if one has to go, she's already gone. But I think she matters more to sort of American history and the history of sort of governance and economics than Rand Paul does, although he's not so bad. Bill says, I never said the Vikings were very selective. Yeah. Well, I was just reading something about the Vikings coming over. Like, they found like Viking traces that were way earlier than they had thought. I can't remember what the story was. I'll have to see if I can dig that up. Yeah, Vikings have a very interesting history. Not a savory history, but a very interesting history. Ayn Rand is dead, so yeah, that's a good point. Bad. Fruity Pebbles are my fave. They get super soggy. Cereal bracket. Yeah, we do a cereal bracket. Although I don't know how we decide. I guess we might have to go. Is it my cereal bracket, or should we do it collaboratively? Bad says, I like to mix cereal into yogurt. Cereal and yogurt's good. Yeah, like just sort of like straight granola in yogurt. It's really good. Joe says, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I don't eat cereal anymore. I would say of the chocolate ones, Cocoa Puffs are, yeah, probably at the top of the list there. The only thing you get with Cocoa Krispies you don't get with Cocoa Puffs is a little bit more surface area per amount of cereal. So I might say I'm partial to, I don't know, it's a tough call. Cocoa Krispies or Cocoa Puffs. But Joe's for Cocoa Puffs. Lola says, in general, Trix gets the boot for me. They're not sweet, basically false advertising. Well, I actually like Trix. I liked Trix more when the pieces were actually shaped like real fruit. Now they're just like little spheres. I don't like it as much, but I still like Trix. Again, I don't like the super sugary cereals though. That says some of the sugar cereals don't taste the same these days. I think they changed something. Yeah, I think that's true, bad. That says rolling on the chair laughing. Floor or too far away some days. I don't know, Jeanette. I like the idea of you rolling on the floor laughing better. This is brilliant. Real laughter and real rolling on the floor. Poor Rand Paul. He got the boot here. I mean, he's fine. You're making me pick between things. Doesn't mean I dislike either thing necessarily. Frosted Flakes, Special K, cinnamon and pecan raisin bran, but I also add raisins to the top. To my top two. Frosted Flakes, very good. I love Frosted Flakes. Mrs. Land and I are in agreement on Frosted Flakes. We really like Frosted Flakes. Special K, little plain, but good. Do you put fruit in it? Raisins in it, maybe? But like, or just fresh fruit. Special K can be pretty good. Cinnamon and pecan, is that a cereal? Or is that just something you're putting in it? Raisin bran, yeah, good. Microaggressions or microbreweries. One has to go. Those are a little different. So if microaggressions go, does that mean nobody's committing any more microaggressions, or does that mean nobody is sort of saying they feel aggressed upon by micro things? I guess I'll say that nobody's committing any more microaggressions. It's probably a good thing. Microbreweries are a good thing to have around, so I guess I'll get rid of the microaggressions. Microbreweries are fine, although I'm not a huge beer. I mean, I like beer, but I'm perfectly fine with like regular, name brand beer. I'm not like crazy about doing all the craft stuff. Jeanette, bahaha. I'll bet you can go. Enjoy yogurt with cereal bars. Cereal bars. I do not like cereal bars. I'm going to do real syrup. I'm doing cereal. Oh no, they changed the Trix shapes. What kind of sick, twisted world is this? Yeah, pretty sick, Lola. It sure shows the deterioration of our society. The Trix used to be shaped like little fruits. Now they're just all little circles. That's why kids have no imagination these days. I guess my favorite healthy cereal would be Honey Bunches of Oats. Yeah, I used to be really into it. I think I might have OD'd on it bad. I'm not crazy about it anymore. But I can see, a lot of people, I think, really like it. Caro says Apple Jacks. Not a huge Apple fan, Caro. But another one people like. Frosted Flakes are okay, but I like oatmeal. Jeanette, you and I are oatmeal partners then. Mrs. Land hates oatmeal. I love oatmeal. I'm trying to convince her to like oatmeal. Not having a whole lot of luck, though, so maybe you can convince her. That is a variant of Special K cinnamon. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that, Bill. I know they have like the red berries. I didn't know they had a cinnamon and pecan. Sounds good, though. Concept of microaggressions versus microbreweries. Yeah, I'm gonna ditch the concept of microaggressions then. Yeah, let's get rid of that. That seems unnecessary. Microbreweries. That doesn't hurt me in any way, so good enough to keep around. Once in a blue moon, I like crumbled graham crackers in milk. Really? I've never done that. I can't really imagine doing that. I do like Blue Moon, though. Blue Moon's a good beer. Lo says they're both millennial inventions. Really. Yeah, it's true. I guess the microbreweries are kind of a millennial thing, too. I guess that one is sort of less bothersome, though. One has to go. Spider-Man, Superman, or Batman? That's tough. Batman's pretty cool. I thought the Batman series over the last, 15 years is pretty good. Spider-Man I always kind of liked. I don't know why. Superman, I guess, is the most iconic, but I'm almost tempted to ditch Superman. Maybe Spider-Man is sort of the weak link out of the three. I'm not sure. I guess since it's... Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm keeping Spider-Man and Batman. Says, oh, graham crackers, haven't had those in years either. Yeah, all those things you had in like snack time as a kid aren't as good when they have them as an adult, because once you're an adult and you get like real food, graham crackers and pretzels aren't cutting it anymore. Bill, have you ever had chocolate graham crackers? Not as an adult, but I'm sure as a kid I did. Jeanette says, make oatmeal overnight in crock pot. House will smell so good when you wake up. Jeanette, if you can't tell, I'm like a pretty instant food person. Luckily, Mrs. Land does a lot of cooking, but if I have to do food, like even putting the oatmeal in the microwave for, a minute and a half when it comes out of little packets is a little long for me. So sometimes I eat it without even microwaving it. I'm pretty impatient. It says, never had chocolate graham crackers. They sound good. Like the cinnamon graham crackers. I remember the cinnamon graham crackers being very exciting growing up. It says Batman is the best because he doesn't have superpowers. He's more realistic. That's true. Batman has had to sort of more improvise and create his tools. I also think his movies were better. This oatmeal needs flavor. Add berries, brown sugar, cinnamon, raisins, maple syrup, something, anything. Oatmeal by itself. Ooh. Yeah, I'm good throwing in some stuff into oatmeal. Certainly brown sugar. And then I think you can throw in, raisins, berries, whatever it is, yeah. I tend to like, food that doesn't have too much stuff in it, though. I tend to not like if I have pasta, I don't usually mix the sauce into the pasta. Usually I just sort of pour the sauce on top of the pasta. I usually like mix them together. Bill says, I have had s'mores. Yeah, s'mores are good. S'mores are good when they're really fresh and hot and you're doing them over like a real campfire. I say Superman gets the boot. Agreed. Think about it. Would Superman really ever be the life of the party? Yeah, he's kind of maybe the most boring personality. Lola says, I think Robert Pattinson from the Twilight movies was the perfect choice for the new Batman movie, by the way. First, they delayed filming due to coronavirus. Lola says, one has to go mohawks, mullets, man buns. Can we get rid of all of them? Yeah, man buns are definitely out. Mohawks or mullets? I think on some people mohawks can look kind of cool. I don't think mohawks are ever going to be quite normal enough that becomes ubiquitous. So maybe we get rid of the mullets and the man buns. A childhood friend of mine is the person who invented the male romper, which got national attention a few years ago, which is a bizarre concoction. But I don't know what it is about millennial guys and some of these inventions. Jet says, I never micro the packets either. Quaker makes the best instant oatmeal, but I tend to use 2 packets. Yeah, Bill, I do 2 packets too. Well, says, I've never had s'mores. Have you had the real ones, though? Yes, I have had the real ones, for sure. Many times camping. They're kind of messy, but they're good. They're good. Not my favorite dessert, but good. That says, me too. Wow, Bill, on the 2 packets. Bad Cat says, I'm pretty excited to talk about that. Lola, I'm more excited about Dune. Haven't been to a movie since Star Wars 7. Oh, I'm excited about Dune. What did Lola say? Okay, I lost track of what Lola said that Bad is referring to. Lola says, I like raisins and almond milk in my oatmeal, or applesauce and almond milk. Applesauce in oatmeal? Really? Never thought of that. Raisins and almond milk? I've never really ventured into the alternative milks. Okay, I gotta really erase here because I'm getting pressure to wrap up. So let me finish up your comments here, and then we'll wrap it up here. Bill says, the real ones, you mean when you make them from scratch at a campfire? Yes, that's actually only kind of had. Yep, those are really good. Remaking Dune, Lola says, laughing. Lola says, mohawks and mullets will survive the apocalypse. Man buns will go extinct. Yep. Bad says, yeah, check out the trailer. You need the book. Bad says, a difficult book to put on the screen. They're making it in 2 parts. Bill says, brown sugar, butter, and milk is good also. Lola says, that's awesome. Everyone should... brown sugar, butter... Yeah, those are all good. Lola says, it's awesome. Everyone should have that experience before leaving the planet. Not burnt, though. Yep. One has to go R2-D2 or C-3PO. I guess I'm keeping R2-D2 because that's the one I remember from the old Star Wars movies. Bill says, I'll have to try applesauce. Never tried that at Lola. It's a good night. Yeah, thanks, guys. I do have to wrap up here because my phone is down to 3%. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. Please, thank you for the likes and the subscribes. Really do appreciate that. I also appreciate everybody joining the Discord if you feel so inclined. The link is in the description. It's also in several of the comments by Quiet. Lola, if you need help getting on that, again, just sort of put a comment on one of my other videos. I'll come help you. If you can't figure it out yourself, when you get there, Jeanette will give you the tour around. Otherwise, yeah, join the Discord. Feel free to contribute to the Duck Fund if you want. Lola says, I recommend it. Admittedly weird. And my brother eats French fries with mustard on them. Fair enough. C-3PO can translate, which is cool, but R2-D2 is cuter. Okay, Lola's recommending the applesauce. Bad says, take it easy. Yeah, thanks, Bad. Lola says, this chat rocked. Yeah, thanks, Lola. We hope to see you back here. Yeah, thanks so much, Lola. Really do appreciate it. We're on every day, by the way, so we come out usually between 6 and 7 p.m. Then we're on, as late as it takes, late as we get good attendance, and we just kind of hang out. So